So how are we doing today?
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello, hello.
We're doing really good. It's been, I feel like even though we are here every week, every single time, like big changes are happening.
Well, it's amazing. Like sometimes time seems to fly by, and sometimes it feels like
it stood
still.
I
And the
know.
weather has changed the last couple of days here in Florida.
Oh, if you live in Florida, it is so humid right now. I know I'm in a sweater, but it seems like the hotter it is outside, the colder it is inside. Because the air
Yeah.
is like working overtime and it's just pumping out like crazy, freezing cold.
Yeah, we have to figure out how to get some air into the warehouse because when we
Yes.
moved into that one warehouse, there was no air, but it was cold. It was cool, so it really didn't bother. But I can actually see when we were actually doing some filming and stuff, and we had a group of people in there working.
Oh, yeah, it's sticky icky in there
oh
right
my
now.
gosh,
Icky.
the heat is changing.
Sticky
I almost feel like our team was going to go on strike. You know, I mean, like we need air conditioning. You know.
It's like first camera equipment, then
It's like what's more important? We can get a couple stands and some lenses.
it
or
probably
air
would have
conditioning?
been the air if it was this hot 2 weeks ago.
I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, it's been crazy.
But we are going to work over the next couple of weeks. I told the team that we're gonna get air conditioning in before we do the next big
There you go.
film session. In
Now
the
that
warehouse.
you've told all of our listeners you say 100% all the time, I feel like now I'm going to pick up on it every time you say it on here.
Well, as long as it's not cringeworthy. So
Of course not.
as long as I say it with a smile and nothing's yeah, it'll be good.
It'll be good. That's all
It'll
good.
be good. That'll be my new thing. What do you agree? Oh, it'll be good. It's going to be good. It's going to be great.
So I've got some interesting news to share. I actually quit my corporate job,
So you have
which
finally...
is crazy town. It's
So
actually crazy town.
you don't have any job lined up.
No, I kind of quit.
You
Didn't
just
kind
kinda-
of. I did quit cold turkey.
So
Just
you have
ripped
quit.
the Band-Aid off.
And then how much of a... Well, let's do that. Well, how much of a notice did you give?
Well, first of all, I gave 3 weeks notice
Mm-hmm.
and more if necessary. Sometimes when transitioning in and out of companies, it's like it really shouldn't take that long as
Right.
there's a plan in place. And of course, I'm a
And
very...
you're senior leadership. You're the
Yes.
executive at the company. So
I
it's not
am.
like you just... There's a lot of responsibility that you have
Right.
that you need to actually work through and hand off.
Yeah, but I also thought about that prior. So, I have documentation and a plan in place and have had all really great amicable discussions. I've been at the company for 7 years, so it's like huge change, super sad, but also really exciting for me, just
Yeah,
to
that's really
make
exciting.
the decision that it's time for a change. And I'm so thankful for everything I learned and every single person I've worked with that I've learned from. And it was an incredible experience. It's where we met.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so
we did.
I feel like we've made lifelong friends there, and a lot of people have moved on and done other things, and it was certainly my time. But that meant a lot of big changes for us and our family. Like,
Absolutely.
when you have really big life changes like this, it has to be discussions. This wasn't an overnight decision. This wasn't, something that, even though I did rip the Band-Aid off, it was with a lot of strategic planning.
Well, and if we kind of back up months and months and months, you had come home a couple times and you had told me, you were like, hey, I quit my job today. And I'm like, no, you didn't. Like, because
that was a joke.
It was a joke, but part of it is,
Your
oh my
reaction.
gosh, our finances would change overnight based off of having dual incomes.
Yeah, and I think the reality is that, like, there were frustrations. I do, there's this old saying that money doesn't buy happiness. And I always used to say, well, it certainly helps.
It does. Did you know that you're a DINK?
Oh, what is that? Dual income,
No kids? Dual
No kids.
income, no kids.
but we're no longer. You're
Right. Now
You're,
we're
you're
single.
now a sink.
Now we're sinking. Now we're a sink.
You're a true
single
sink.
income, no kids. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that outside. So we have successfully gone from dink to sink.
Yes, and it was
Well, at the
really,
end of the month.
We joked that Pepper lived a really good life, our puppy dog, because while we had no kids, we had one dog, so she's been spoiled rotten. But yes, I am still working for the company and transitioning smoothly, and I'll be available for anything they need after the fact. But it's time for me to be a little bit more entrepreneurial like you and
Excellent.
figure out what I'm going to be passionate about. But it really, while I joked, there were some frustrating times, but certainly not enough to actually make me just quit my job. This was a discussion that we've been having for, quite some time, just about like what life has in store in the future for both of us and me professionally. And so that meant...
That's exciting.
Yeah, it is exciting for both of us, but that meant discussions. And so...
It did.
That's where I turned to you.
One of the things that we've always said, like when we were coming up with the podcast and the concepts, and I think I had in the very beginning was this very utilitarian, we're going to talk budgets and get into numbers. And what we decided through when we were doing the practice podcast and hanging out was... let's live our life and just share the things, because life is ever changing. And right now, like with this, it's like we said, you know what, we have all kinds of things we could talk about, but let's just walk through like some of the thoughts that we had, some of the preparation, the conversations that we had that led up to that decision for you deciding to put your notice in and do something new. Yeah.
And life is ever changing. I mean, it was more exciting to talk about our life because one, that's easy for us. I mean, anyone can tell their story. And two, I think we're kind of funny sometimes, but but really, the reality is everybody's life experiences have budgeting challenges around every corner.
Yes.
And that's part of what we're discussing is that it is a lifestyle, to utilize budget banking, but also when you make changes like this, it can be incredibly helpful for planning purposes. That's where we sat there and I did come to you, and our discussion initially started with, what would I have to make? Maybe it was just going to be a pay cut. Maybe it was going to be a transition. Maybe it was going to be, we didn't know what it looked like, but it was like, what are our options here? Let's lay out different scenarios, or if it's nothing at all, for how long,
Right.
And that's where we are. We're with the nothing at all for how long.
We're at the nothing at all for how long. So like, yeah, you're right. So when we sat down and we first looked at it, it was, I'm not going to share your salary, but we have a six-figure income that is going to go away. Right?
Correct. Yes.
And so we sit here and we go, that's a significant portion of our life and the way that we budgeted and chose to spend and save. And so we kind of went through each of those items and walked through and said, which of these can we start cutting and cleaning up on? Like,
we
what are the wants?
We built in
What are the needs?
cushions to build up savings, but it was like, how can we look at those cushions, pull back, live, stringently within our means.
Correct. Yes.
And so it was like getting rid of a lot of the cushion for a period of time. The cushion's important, but...
So let's talk about our house account real quick. So our house, the house account is the main account where that is our mortgage comes out of,
it's
our
all of our
insurance,
fixed costs.
our electric, that's what it costs to actually have a house and live in downtown Sarasota.
And we do love our downtown lifestyle, so we don't want to lose that.
And at this point in time, we went through it and we said the only thing that we were going to remove from that lifestyle was cutting our buffer down. And so we reduced our buffer by 80%. And the buffer in the house account is the amount that builds up positively so that account grows each month.
Right.
So when we looked at the house account, it was boom, it's going to stay the same, buffer down.
And we did have the discussion, and we've talked about this before on the podcast. So we actually pay our mortgage every couple of weeks. Mm-hmm. So those off payments go direct to principal versus the interest, and it will allow for us to pay our mortgage off years in advance. That was another suggestion where I was like, we can pay the bare minimum, but when we did the math and we thought about it, it wasn't worth getting rid of this leg up that we have. We're capable of making mortgage payments every couple of weeks right now. But that was a topic of discussion.
It was. It was a thing, and I think I said, no, I really don't want to do that. Let's stay focused on the plan to get this paid off. Mm-hmm. The next thing that we did was we got out the food budget, and we got out some machetes and some knives, and we started chopping out our food budget.
Yeah, so I might be calling after like 2 weeks of ramen, it's very possible that I'm going to have my old company on speed dial, and I'm going to be like, please take me back.
Yeah, and so we actually have a very aggressive food budget. We love to go out to eat, and what we decided as a couple, and cook, and it all comes out of there. And what we decided was that we were going to nix Starbucks. out, and that if we want to
Which, by the way, I haven't had a Starbucks out, and I can't even tell you how long. So he's nixing Starbucks.
Yeah, I'm nixing Starbucks out of there, so that's going to be really
We
sad.
have an
Have you
espresso
ever
machine
seen
at home.
angry Starbucks list, Chris?
No. Yeah, I might change
It's like
my
a
mind.
monster.
No.
Yeah. No, but
I'll just need to make sure we
I
have the
actually
cream
do
in the
reduce
house.
that. So we're going to go without buying at Starbucks. We still make Starbucks coffee at home. And then that has to come out of our personal money. So it's like, hey, if you want Starbucks, we're going to start bringing it out of our personal. We have our budget set into two pieces. One is making food at home and then going out to eat. And we made a decision to cut our going out to eat and to cook more at home.
Yeah, exactly.
Which
I will
lucky,
have more time to do.
Which you have more time to do now.
You're going to be getting like 5-star meals every night.
You are an amazing cook. And
I do enjoy
I think
it.
everyone loves to see what you're building on Tackling Tuesdays and all the great dishes that you make. And so I think we're really going to benefit from that. And of course, because we're eating at home, we'll have a cocktail at home. That's going to cut our costs down quite a bit.
Yeah.
And so even though we brought it down, we actually brought it down about 40%. So we're making a huge cut in our food budget and the ability to go out. And so it'll be interesting to see how that affects
How it plays
us,
out.
how that plays out over the next couple months.
I mean, it is a lifestyle change too, because you are offered more time, and there's so many different ways to budget when cooking and utilizing similar ingredients across a week. And so I'm excited.
And you're going to have more time to do that.
Right. And I've had a couple of friends already tell me I need to just go write a cookbook. That should be my... I joked. I'm like, this is... By the way, everybody listening, this is like very ill-advisable to just quit your job with nothing as an executive at a company.
Don't go from dink to sink.
Yes. This is...
We're not...
it's one of those things where I do... I have a lot of faith in both my skill set and just life in general. I think that things oftentimes fall into place for us, but it's because there's a lot of hard work put behind it. And I absolutely plan to find out what my passion is. And I know there's going to be something that's just perfect for the future. But it is a little bit scary, just like jumping in the deep end and going for it.
But
I felt like if I didn't make the
scary,
change...
though?
Well, why isn't it?
Yeah, like what are some of the things that are making it not as scary?
Because first of all, it's opportunistic. It's like it's building the confidence back in myself to be like, I can do anything I put my mind to. And, I'm in my late 30s, mid 30s. So I passed the 35. Now I can't even say mid. But no, it's like one of those things where I sit there and go, I've experienced challenges in my life in the past, and somehow it always does work out, for me, for my family, for my friends. It's like we've seen so many people go through it. And I've been a manager of other people for years, and I've always said, whether someone leaves a company by choice or not by choice, I've never seen anybody not move on to something that's been bigger and better
Absolutely.
for growth in their professional career.
100%.
And I truly believe that it was just about time that I took my own advice.
I think it's right. No, I agree with that. I was actually looking for the shameless budget banking plug where it's like,
oh, sorry.
I did my budgets and I feel like I'm confident that we're going to be alive.
Because I know we'll survive. That too.
Because I know we'll be, okay, so we passed that. I did the plug for you. All right, so let's walk through just all of our accounts because this was a sit down, but we actually did pretty quickly because we're used to doing this. We have a second home. Did we make any changes to our vacation?
No, but what is nice to know is that if we absolutely had to and life got super tough, even if the market wasn't great to sell, we could rent.
We could rent.
That could be another, place where we were gaining income that we're not currently getting right now.
Right. And we made that decision that said we're not going to do that, but it is a great way that we can actually bring in income if we needed to.
Right. And that's another one of those things. It's like I was always kind of scared to make investments in real estate or scared to spend money. But at the end of the day, I sit here now in this situation. It's like it's actually super beneficial to have assets while they're an expense. They can also help support
you. They can quickly turn back into
a revenue stream
if you made a good purchase.
Absolutely.
Which I think we did. So that really piggybacked. So our second home piggybacked with our vacation account. And we have, I think, like 3 trips planned this summer. We've already bought the airline tickets, so you buy these things in advance. We do not have
planned
hotels
this before I was broke.
Yeah, we bought everything before we were broke, and we slashed vacation.
I'll be making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and bringing them on the plane.
Yes, we'll be packing.
That will be our diet.
We'll be sneaking in the little.
Normally, I'm the one
travelers.
that's like, "Did you see the Michelin star restaurant we could try?" And now I'm going to be like, "So,
did you see that hot dog stand?
Picnic on the beach."
They're serving Nathan's.
Anyway. You love hot dogs.
I actually do love
I
hot
have a
dogs.
friend-
I said that. I thought, wow, that actually sounds delicious.
I just told, this is so off topic, but I was telling one of my best friends that I grew up with that I was putting my notice in, and she was proud of me because she knows that I've got dreams and aspirations. So she's excited I'm finally just taking the leap. But she was like, my husband is actually doing the same exact thing this week. And on Saturday, he's buying a hot dog stand. So that's not.
I know where I'm going to get my hot dogs
I'm not
from.
going to lie. For a second,
You got
there,
to patron friends.
Well, first of all, I was like, maybe like that's it for me. Like, is there a hot dog stand for sale in Sarasota? Like, there was a moment in time because we have family friends in Michigan where my aunt has a cottage, and they retired police officers opened up a hot dog stand, and they love it. They love it.
Well, I love the hot dog place in downtown Sarasota. So,
Yeah, I know.
I'm a
Doggy
huge fan.
style.
Yeah, if you're ever down there and you're looking for a good hot dog, please go patron them. They are amazing. Steve's a great guy.
Oh, you're
who owns
amazing.
that.
Look at that plug, Steve. I feel like every hot dog stand has like a really inappropriate name. I mean, how can you not? Like, you're dealing with hot dogs. But it's just
He's got his named after all the states, and the flavors are just amazing.
yeah, but the name of the business is Doggy Style. I'm just throwing it out there.
Well, you got to get people in the door. So, he gets everyone and they come in. I actually because we live downtown, I actually ride the scooter over there because I don't have to worry about parking. And he's got like a little spot set aside for me and my scooter. I think I visit that often.
Wow.
So
every time I go out of town, I'm like, what'd you have for lunch today? Even
Hot
though
dog.
I know it was a hot dog.
yeah,
So.
I get my hot dog fixed.
All right, we are like in hot dog land. But
So, going back to opening up food stands on vacation in weird towns, we cut our vacation account really, we dramatically cut that down. One is because we did a lot of our trips earlier in the year, so it was actually beneficial. And we have the second home. I think we would actually have had a problem, but we would have had more money. So either way, I think the combination of those two in our situation, we were able to cut down.
you think
and
we would
still
have had a
have
problem
getaway.
with what?
Like if we didn't have the home,
Right,
and
right.
we
We
didn't
would've-
have a getaway.
Well, it would have been a major
that would have been a
lifestyle
lifestyle change for us.
to say you're not going to travel at all.
You're not going to
And
travel at all.
We do. We absolutely love the lake. In fact, completely aside the point, we don't typically travel a ton. But for some reason this year, like everything that we were going to do was like in the month of May.
We literally had you're right. Everything that's typically spread out was condensed.
was jammed into one area. It was just like coordinating with friends and family or events that were actually being, facilitated by third parties or universities. It just wound up all being at the same time. And we commented that it's been so much. It's like hard to look forward to something when you're like jumping from place to place. And I know, oftentimes looking from the outside in, it's like, oh my gosh, amazing. These people, I do. I always look at people in Europe and I'm like, where'd they get that money? I'm going to be that person in like a month. I'm getting a backpack. I'm going to a hot dog stand, every hot dog stand in Italy. No, pizza. I'm eating pizza in Italy.
Pizza by the slice, traveling,
Go to the
backpacking.
Amalfi
I'll be
Coast.
here by myself on the show and be like, yeah, okay, here's the picture update. In fact, she's over here.
She's still using her savings and paying the bills.
She's over here. So we cut dramatically on vacation, and we made the decision that, hey, you know what? We do live in a beautiful place. Let's take advantage of what we have here locally while we're going through a transition. And we were both okay with that. So obviously the plane tickets we bought, those are to visit like my brother and visit our family. We do the same Michigan trip every summer. So those trips are going to go. Our housing costs are nothing. Those trips are low.
Yes, thank you,
the big
family,
outlays
for
are
giving
gone.
us that.
So
the
we appreciate
hospitality.
all of you. Please make sure there's fresh sheets on the couches.
The couches,
I'm
on the
teasing.
bgoing I'm not
Yeah.
sleeping on a couch.
Okay. This girl needs to get used to her reduced lifestyle, her reduced income. We're going to be looking for hotels with only couches. I never realized that
Oh,
you have the
gosh.
king and the two queen option. Do you have the couch option?
The places that rent by the hour. We just need to sleep here.
Some park benches.
I know.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
We're destined. Okay, all right. So a vacation we've cut down dramatically. Let's talk about our renovation budget. So we have a renovation budget. We cut it down to just basically a nickel. Basically just enough to have a small amount.
We
deposited
we were
into
very
that
lucky
account.
that we moved into a new build. So when we talk renovations, we obviously have emergency funds if something were to happen. That's some of that cushion that we built up in the house account over the course of time. But things like getting shelving in your master closet. It's like that's
Well, that was what
that's not necessary. That was the next project, but
that was the next project was to kind of enhance a closet.
But we could wait 5 years, and that could never happen, and we would still live a good life.
And so I think we were putting just $100, $200 into that account each month, and that we basically nixed that. That was gone.
Gandhi.
It is totally Gandhi. And then we did the same thing for our miscellaneous account as well. We took miscellaneous and said, hey, that's got to roll up into our food. So we kind of brought that down. And then we did the same thing with our emergency fund. So we had emergency funds that were there.
The emergency fund was kind of funny this year.
It was, yeah. Well, I think a lot of people struggle with what is an emergency and what is it for. It feels really weird when you have other money other places.
Right.
So like if you have a savings and you've been building up a savings, it's kind of like, why do you have an emergency? I think emergency fund is really good when you don't have savings.
Right.
And so I feel like the emergency fund is the thing that you get up and it's like it's there. And then you start saving, and then your savings gets big enough to where you don't need the emergency fund.
Right.
And,
we were terrible. We were like in the Keys, and it was like, ooh, vacation's getting low. An extra cocktail seems like an emergency.
No, it was not like that. Not like that at all. But you're pretty funny. But it was not like that.
Anyway, that won't be happening anymore.
So we took a look at that. We looked at our emergency. We looked at all these accounts. We also have an account for Pepper. So we have a kid account that pays for, because we subscribe to vet services.
Because Pepper's our child.
And Pepper is our child, our little Frenchie. Maybe we can get Maria to go ahead and flash another Pepper pick up.
A Peppy pick?
Yeah, Peppy pick. Could we get one Peppy pick? Here, I'll even do the thing. Peppy pick. Do it right there. That's where I want to see it. Put it right.
I'll pet her.
So if you're watching the video version, you're going to see a Pepper pick.
It would be really good if Maria just didn't put a Peppy pick and she was just on the side, rolling her eyes, like, what are these two doing?
Yeah, what are we doing? So we went through all the budgets. So we have 7 accounts, and we cleaned up house. And then what we realized is that if we had zero income from your side, that we actually would not meet those budgets, that amount. And we decided.
So it was like an idea of how long could I pull from my personal savings, and at what point in time would it be too much? So we kind of started creating these milestones of, yes, it's going to be a financial outlay for me at first, but I have worked my ass off for years. So do I have money? I would freaking hope so. But it's like, one of those things where I don't want to just pull from my savings to live my life. That's completely irresponsible. But I need the jetway to be able to build up. Like I need to be able to try to start something or see, what's in store. So we made some milestones. It was like, okay, after 3 months, I need to be generating X amount of revenue. After 6 months, otherwise, back to corporate America for me.
Right, exactly. So what we did is that we kept those budgets. We were happy with those. And it was like, okay, we're going to pull from savings for the next 3 months and satisfy that. And so what we did was we clicked, there's a prorate button inside of budget banking. So we actually put 50-50 because we were comparable salaries. And then yours is going down very, very low. And so the idea was we prorated it. So we click that button, and all it does is rearrange all my deposits now. So now my deposits are being heavier on the one side. You're going to make a deposit. Those go into those accounts for the pro rata side. And for 3 months, we're going to live this new reduced budget lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And our goal was, number one, was to get to the point where we do not pull from savings. So I think that was like a worthwhile goal for us to say, the first thing is let's break even so we're not losing money anymore. And then the next goal was to double that so that there was
we can get back to some of
in.
The lifestyle that we lived before.
And so I think we're actually going to live that. I mean, we're going to live that over the next year and be communicating as we slowly grow.
You guys will be updated.
And you're going to you might see an episode of Cooking with Beck and Ramen.
There you go. Yes. No, but and this is something that maybe isn't popular to talk about, or people don't open up oftentimes. But I think that the other important thing is, I already said it, money doesn't buy happiness, and it certainly does help. But truly, there were aspects of like mental health that became a priority. Mm-hmm. And I think in general in life, there was nothing wrong with the company that I was working for, but I love the startup mentality. I love the flexibility of being empowered to, have an idea and go make it happen. And while a lot of that still existed, it was some things were outside of my control. And, everybody has different strengths and weaknesses in what they do and what drives them and motivates them and makes them passionate. And I wasn't really able to tap into a lot of those things that keep me going.
Right.
And my professional career, everybody's professional career, you're at work more than you're at home. Typically. And it means a lot. Having satisfaction in what you're doing and feeling purpose is a really big deal. And, when you don't have that, whether you realize it or not, chances are is that's starting to roll over into some personal aspects of your life. And there were times where it was like, I was with you or I was with family and I'm complaining about a profession versus boasting about, something I'm proud of or what I get to do. And I know a lot of people are like, a job's a job. You go and you make a paycheck. A job isn't just a job to me. It's actually been one of my biggest joys in life to have a profession that I love and something I can pour into. So it got to the point where it was like, while this is going to be uncomfortable, who are we kidding? It was definitely the right decision for me and my mental health to build myself back up and prove you can still do all those things you've done over the years. It's just, hopefully going to be for yourself this time.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. And I think the scariest things that keeps people from pursuing passion is the money and the budgets and the income. And I think that while we never set out to have this experiment, I feel like this is a super opportune moment.
What we should have done is reached out to Netflix before I gave my notice and been executive leaves her 6-figure salary and decides to see if she can make it happen. And there was a girl.
And I have a great title for the show.
What?
Dinks to sink.
People would be like, is this a hardware, a home improvement show?
I don't think we're going to live that. I can't actually wait to tell your parents that one. So.
Well, they'll be listening. Don't worry. They'll hear it.
That's true. Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was time. And I would say mental health is always a number one priority in my life and should be in everybody else's. And it was really nice to have you and the family supporting me in this decision. I've got an incredible support system. Yeah. And so, to have someone that stands by you and they build you up and they're like, we can do this. That's awesome.
It is
awesome. I
awesome.
feel very blessed.
And, what's interesting is that, you had talked about this before and I was definitely much more on the, hey, let's protect the income. And I probably wasn't taking into account how much work was affecting you as a person and some of the things that you wanted to do, et cetera. I was very budget focused, but we had the conversations and it was when you came across and said, I'm serious. Let's look at the budget. What can we do?
Yeah.
And I would
solution
encourage
with me.
Yeah.
And the timing is everything, right? When I was probably originally joking about it. And to be honest, when I originally brought it up, I don't think I would have ever had the balls to do it anyway. Even when I had made up my mind, still hitting enter on the keyboard.
Yeah, I wasn't really sure because you say it it's like one of those things that you say when you're just frustrated. And I was like, she doesn't really mean that.
Right.
She's not really going to give up our food budget. Those are the thoughts. But, people actually have different things that happen to them. So sometimes someone gets a job and their pay increases, right? And then you have to look at your budgets. Sometimes you lose a job. We know a lot of people who've lost jobs or taken pay cuts, and then you have to make a change. And what's crazy is that for the I would say the most part, for 98% of the people that we know, it works out.
Absolutely.
If you just take the numbers and you put together a plan, it does work out.
Yeah, you work as a team or you work as an individual and you live within your means. You just live within your means. When I graduated from college, I wasn't making what I'm making right now.
No, you were a volunteer. You were actually,
no, seriously.
I think you actually paid them to work there.
I up and moved my life to be an intern to make $0. And I was working 18 hours a day. It was in the it was insane. It was absolutely insane.
Was that 6 months that you did that before?
And at that point in time, I had, it was probably even shorter because it didn't work out for me, but by my choice again. But no, it's one of those things where it's I was able to live then, and while it is a change in lifestyle, I think you get used to things as you continue to be successful in your life, but you can't forget, what you've done in your
could
past
do
and what is
where you could come from and what you can live without.
Exactly.
Etc.
And sometimes you might make the change and you'd be like, you know what? I hated that job, but I was much happier going out to eat with my husband every night. Or you might make the change and be like, man, I'm happy eating ramen.
I am happy eating ramen and
Chris
hot dogs.
loves ramen.
Ramen and hot dogs.
I know. You're like a college kid.
It's what keeps me
Speaking of
young.
which.
It's what keeps me young.
Oh my gosh. But I had the opportunity to, not to get, deep, but I've traveled to a lot of third world countries as well, and studied abroad in Ecuador when I was finishing up my senior year of college. And sometimes I would just like look out the window as we were driving through some really rough towns, and there were just kids that were playing with milk cartons and having the time of their lives.
Yeah.
And, I've been to villages in Africa, and it's like, and again, you guys, this was like on a budget. I was younger. I was just traveling and kind of living life, staying at hostels and, backpacking for real. And it's like, you notice that what you don't know, and you just enjoy what you have. You make the best out of life.
Which is a reason why a lot of people have abandoned social media and gotten off of, looking at this, because it's always looking at the highlight reel. And it becomes very, easy to see people traveling and eating food and going places, and you feel like you might be left out. The reality is that it is a very small portion of the population that's posting and that's doing those things.
Or it's just that. It's a highlight reel.
It's just a highlight reel.
Someone posts something and 2 seconds later they're crying in their bathroom because
Exactly.
they spent all their money on a post. No, I mean, who knows? But it is. It's easy to get overwhelmed, and it's easy to assume everyone else is just living this amazing life because that's what you see. But everyone knows by now that that's not reality.
I'm going to title this episode From Dinks to Sinks.
You've really just gone back to that again.
I know.
I don't think it's going to be funny like the third time on this episode.
All right, I'm sorry.
But if you can, it's like you just completely interrupted the conversation.
That's what I do.
Yourself.
I'm just sitting there
And the other
imagining.
thing is that
I'm
you,
like,
it was like you had this amazing title in your mind and then waited 30 seconds to announce it. It was like, did you really have something in mind, or did you say I'm going to name this episode and then we brainstormed with you?
I was just thinking about ramen and hot dogs and all these menu changes.
I would have rather you said I'm going to name this episode Ramen and Hot Dogs.
Okay, we'll see what happens.
Maria will be in charge of that. She can name it whatever she wants, and I trust her.
And it'll be amazing. So regardless, no, I was, I think I was daydreaming a little bit because what
that never happens. That's so weird. Are you okay? You've never daydreamed before in your life. Chris has conversations with me, and I'll be talking to him, and I'm like, "Hello," and he's like, "What? I'm answering you in my head." Or the best one, you didn't answer. You didn't ask a question.
I'm pretty sure that most men have the syndrome that I have.
No, seriously. I went out to dinner with you and my dad the other night. We were walking down the sidewalk,
We were
and
both
I
just sitting in
said something,
silence.
and I was like, "Hello, both of you," and you were like, "You didn't ask a question." My dad's like, "Yeah,
You didn't ask a question."
Both of them were like, "I'm so confused. Why would you expect conversation to be two-way?
Like,
Are we with each other to visit? Like, I thought we were just eating." It's like,
it's I think what it is, it's that this is very real.
Yes.
It's something that had been talked about. It literally happened within the last week.
Freedom.
And you are, I can see the energy and the excitement in you. I'm excited about that, but it does come with change. And so I am constantly thinking about that and what's going to happen. And I think a lot of people
what
do.
you just saw is we had the discussion and Chris was like frozen in time, like maybe this isn't a good idea.
Yeah, I guess now that we've talked about it live on the podcast, is this a good thing? Actually,
Yes,
it actually is going to be a great thing.
We're both very happy.
We're so looking forward to it. But it's one of those things where we're actually going to live it in real life, and that's what I was kind of thinking about. Is that a lot of people don't get the opportunity to really go through it and then voice it and rationally walk through it,
right?
And then see the change, and then also have it documented, both the good, the highs and the lows.
Yeah, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and we'll share.
So we're pretty open.
We're very transparent
of sharing that, and so I never thought of the podcast taking either a negative side or thing like that. But if we stick to what our goals were in outlining this podcast, which was it's our everyday life, we're going to share what we go through, and we're going to intertwine budget banking inside of it, so that it's not just this, feel like you're part of a coursework, but it's like, hey, these are real things. They happen to all of us, and it happens to us, and we're sharing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know some people, and I could go on and on about this, but I know people who are worried to make a change because they're like, well, I barely have anything in my savings right now. And it's like, well, you don't have to make the ridiculous change that I just did, where you're like, well, I'm just going to up and drop everything. It's like I only did that with a lot of foundation laid on what we want our future to look like. But I think for a lot of other people, sometimes you do get stuck. You get comfortable. You said it to me. You become a slave to the paycheck. And all I'll say is sometimes that's okay. Sometimes like taking a back seat and being like, I'm just gonna, do this because it does pay the bills and it alleviates that element of stress in your life, then that's okay. Maybe you have the subject matter expertise and you don't need to work that hard because, you're more valuable than someone they could hire tomorrow because you've got the years of experience within the company. But other times I would challenge you. It's like, you're in control of your own destiny. So sometimes as much as it's like, it takes work and you have to kind of get off your ass and do something about it, like make the change that you think could make your life better.
Right. And really you're specifically talking to is people who are working and stuck in a job that they no longer love, that it's impacting their life. We have one life to live. And when it comes to getting a paycheck and do it, if you love your job and you're getting a paycheck and you're enjoying your weekends and life's great. Then that's awesome. Like
amazing.
You budget well and you can have a great life. But if you are stuck in that thing and you think there is more, there's a lot of ways that you can pivot and get out of that. And
I think it starts with loving yourself and having the confidence that you could go be valuable somewhere else. I think a lot of people get stuck because they just don't believe in themselves anymore. You kind of get stuck in this rut.
Right. And so we're going to
motivational podcast today. We're really
today's session of motivational podcast.
This has been a therapy session.
I have a radio voice.
Oh yeah, let's hear it. No.
On today's session.
That is so creepy.
It's kind of creepy. Let's totally stick to just normal. No, I'm not.
Today's session.
Well, on the
it's like Silence of the Lambs.
Seriously. Well, on Bobby Bones,
okay.
on the Bobby Bones show.
I didn't know you had a radio voice, and now I know for a fact
you
don't.
First of all, I was put on the spot, and so it was like I
put yourself on the spot.
They were counting numbers.
I'm like red for you.
I'm not, because no one can see me on today's version.
Oh, you decided to try it again.
Budget Banking Podcast.
Wow. Okay, Bobby Bones.
They were doing counting to the number 10 seductively and laughing. And it was hilarious, which is why I thought I could actually do something and I was like doing it myself in the car.
Oh my
and
gosh.
saying like, can I sound better than them? So.
And now you know.
And now I don't.
Well, with that, shall we count ourselves out seductively?
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, hey, thanks for.
He's like, no, we're going to cut that.
No, we're going to go ahead and cut that out. Can we cut the last 5 minutes of this out?
Thank you guys for listening today. And we're super excited to keep you updated.
We are going to go ahead and keep you updated on this journey of Beck taking off. Thank you much for joining us. Please continue to send in your questions, your comments. If you'd like to share certain or see us share certain things about this journey, we'd love to hear from you. And we'll see you next week.
See ya.